and it plugs into the diagnostic port on BMWs to tell you why that light is on the instrument cluster.
Oh,
because
okay.
you have to talk to the brain.
And you
Well,
can
you guys with
everything back.
BMWs, that's what Yamahas don't have those problems.
Yeah.
Nice joke. Nice joke.
but true. But true.
No, it's also diagnostic. You know, you can see what's going on, even if there's not light on, and you can put everything back in the position. You know, not that it pops up all the time, so you can make that back also. You know, but I have some good news too.
Yes.
I'm going to Germany.
Yay!
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because I love Germany and I like to be there. So in the middle, but we booked a flight finally. But the bad news is I cannot go with my husband. He cannot go in the country, but I can, and I can come back. And so I will have a 3 weeks break in November until beginning of December. Hopefully I will see a Christmas market, and they're not closed because of the stupid pandemic, you know. So
yeah. Do you have dual citizenship, Uta?
Yes.
Ah, okay. That's
the only reason why I can go.
Yeah.
Have you been to the Christkindl Mart in Nuremberg?
Yes, sir.
It's wonderful.
For sure. But in every big town, they have the last weeks before Christmas Eve. So 24th is an important thing in Germany. And when you go in, every big city have a beautiful Christmas market. Frankfurt Christmas market is also very nice. It's around the really old downtown area, the marketplace, you know, where the old marketplace is. So it's beautiful. Everyone, so you can make, in the December, you can make, you know, trips to every Christmas market with good food, a lot of glühwein, you know, and Christmas presents. So you can have everything over there.
I've had the pleasure. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I need to go back. For sure. I felt like my Bavarian roots really.
I said to Scott, maybe, you know, after the convention, please, because before the convention, I will. It's next, you know, it's coming up. Oh, by the way, and the international, she is turning the international president in the year after me. So she is in David's year. She is international president. So, but I told Scott, you know, I can organize something, no problem, but after the convention, please.
Sounds good to me.
With that.
I can go as a translator. Just kidding. I can't speak German.
You have a translator, actually.
I know. I'm kidding. I only speak "Can I get a beer" and a single room German. I also wanted to share. What?
Are you saying that Ute needs a translator in Germany?
No, I was being a smart aleck.
She's more independent than John. She can do everything.
No, I told you guys the story about walking into the bookstore and trying to say a phrase in German that I had worked all day on, and then the lady just laughed at me. But what's that?
Ich habe Bier gern.
Yeah, ich möchte ein Bier.
No. Liebt Bier. He loves
Bier.
Ja, ich liebe Bier.
My big problem with learning German for GIs is I'd ask, "Wo ist der Bahnhof?" But they never told me how to listen to the answer. You know, if it wasn't the Erste Rex and the Radios, you were stunk.
Links and rechts and oben and unten.
All right, Bruce, we can see you now. Can you hear us?
Yeah, apologies. I'm now literally sitting on top of my router because my internet connection was not working. So
that's okay. That's usually when I have to go figure out which one of the kids has their phone and their computer and the TV streaming at the same time. So
tell me which one of your kids to blame.
All of them.
Okay.
Probably the 46-year-old. So because you're having issues, I'm gonna. Oh, Jerry has a question.
Joe.
Or is he saying hi? I think because you're having issues, I'm going to let you go ahead and get started. And then if there's anything we need to cover at the end, we can do that. So without further ado, Mr. Bruce Beck is joining us from Starfish Packs. Did I get it wrong? Probably. Starfish Pack to talk to us about the work that they're doing in Columbia.
Okay, thank you, and apologies for all the goofiness that's going on at my end. I spent hours today making sure this wasn't going to happen, which is usually the kiss of death when it comes to technology for me. Just bear with me here while I turn off all these annoying pop-ups.
Trying to not get gradient angle that ball pretty deep up the middle.
Okay, am I free to share the screen now, Amanda?
Yes, sir, you're good.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me come 3 or 4 times already today to your meeting. I hope I can stay through to the end of it. Linda, when she sent me the invitation, told me that we're members from Canada, the US, Mexico, and Guatemala. Are there any Canadians on here, or am I surrounded by Americans? Or, as you would say, Americans?
No, I'm Canadian.
All right, so there is a Canadian there. There's no one here from Guatemala or Mexico? Okay, fair enough. Well, what I like to do, I've done this presentation, as Linda will tell you, well, probably 60 times, including a couple of district conferences. I'll tell you in advance that what I'm about to show you is dated. The numbers are completely out of date, but the numbers don't matter. It's the story that matters. And I always like to start off the presentation by doing just a quick audience IQ check to see what kind of people I'm talking to determine how fast or slow I need to talk. So here's a very simple question. Who's ever hosting this, if everyone could unmute just for 30 seconds so I can hear you all. I have but one simple question to ask all of you, and that question is simply this. What is the #1 Rotary Club in all of North America? Just holler it out.
Chicago.
No. One answer?
By what criteria?
Well, by being #1 in North America.
Your
But
club.
by
This
size,
club.
by what they do?
Okay, in the interest of time,
The
to stop.
Rotary Club of Motorcycling Rotarians, period.
No, and no. Okay, I'm going to talk slow. Someone did get it. In fact, it is my club. My club is the #1 Rotary Club in North America. Linda told me you guys just recently celebrated your 2nd anniversary. Congratulations on that. My club is celebrating its 70th anniversary this year. And for 70 straight years, my club has been the #1 club in North America in Rotary International. I'm sure some of you question my objectivity, my credibility, so let's apply the 4-way test to that statement. 4-way test of things we think, say, or do. First test is it the truth? The Abbotsford Rotary Club is the #1 Rotary Club in North America. Is it true? Yes. A, B, B. Now, why would I share that? Well, A, because I can. B, because the second part of the 4-way test is, does it build goodwill and friendship? Is it fair? That's the third one. Well, it's fair because it's the alphabet. Does it bring goodwill? I see some of you are smiling about it now, so that's the great way to start a relationship. And is it beneficial for all concerned? And that's the most important test, because by making that point, I get to make the most important point in the entire presentation, and that is simply this. Sometimes the very best answer to a question is another question. And someone asked it. This is a smart club. What's the #1 Rotary Club in all of North America? Based on what? When we talk about kids that are starving, and we define starving as going without any meaningful calorie intake for a period of 48 hours or longer. When we think about kids that are starving, as residents of North America, most of us get a mental image that looks something like this. We seldom, if ever, get a mental image like this. Our kids, our schools, our playgrounds. When we think about communities that can't feed their own kids, we tend to think of places like this. Places where there's famine, war, no infrastructure. We never, ever think about places like this. This is a picture of my hometown, part of it. You can't probably see it. And in the background, in the foreground is a bunch of fruit orchards. In the background is a very large intensive hog operation. To the right of the picture is a large greenhouse. So not only is Abbotsford the #1 Rotary Club in all of North America, alphabetically, here are some other facts that are equally true, and I hope I built my credibility to this point that you'll trust me when I give you these statistics. Abbotsford is the largest farm gate community in Canada. We produce more food per hectare than any place else in Canada. Canada is the second largest country in the world. So we produce more than the Okanagan Valley, for those of you that are familiar with BC. We produce more than the Niagara Escarpment, for those of you familiar with Ontario. We produce more than any other community in the prairies. We are, by far, by a factor of almost 3, the largest farm gate community in the country. And we have over 600 kids that every day go to school hungry. They don't come packing a lunch. They didn't eat breakfast. There's a question mark as to whether they'll eat in the evening. Now, how is it that a community that grows more food and produces more food than any place else in the country has hundreds of kids going hungry? Well, when we as a Rotary Club found out about this, we started something that has become and evolved into what is now called Starfish Pack. Most of our kids, and I have to make this distinction for my American brothers and sisters in Rotary, unlike the US, in Canada, most provinces and ministries of education do not provide budgets for in-school feeding programs. That is not a federal or provincial funded mandate. Whereas in a lot of the U.S. states that is the case. But having said that, a lot of schools have arranged private breakfast or lunch programs on a local basis. The problem is that come final bell on Friday afternoon, these kids that depend on a breakfast or a lunch in school don't know where or what they're going to eat until Monday when school starts again. So we created a program called Starfish Packs. It's a backpack we send home every Friday afternoon. It contains 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, and snacks to get a single student through the weekend. And unlike every other Rotary community project that I've ever been involved in, we did our thing, had our little fundraiser, had our photo op, and then just assumed that that was it and we'll move on to something else. But something strange happened with this project, which makes it worth sharing with other clubs like yours. You probably can't see this, but this is the front page of the Abbotsford News, which is the local weekly newspaper in my community. There's 2 strange things about this front page. And because of our technology challenges, I'll just tell you what they are. The first is, there's only one story on the front page of this newspaper. Think about the last time you picked up a newspaper, if you even remember what a newspaper is, that had one story on it. Almost unheard of. What's even more remarkable about this front page is there's no advertising. Think about it, if you've ever in your lifetime seen a newspaper where there's no banner advertising on the front page of a newspaper. We didn't ask for this story. We didn't know this story was going to be written, but our little project garnered some attention. Well, let me just step back a step here in the history of the program. So we initially started with 6 backpacks in one school, and within a couple of weeks the program started, we started getting very nasty phone calls from other school principals saying, "What are you doing in that school? My school has greater needs than they do." And so we started in February, we finished off the school year with that school, and then over the summer months we talked to the school district and we determined that the 2 schools with the highest need, the highest levels of poverty, and our club decided that we would commit to 50 backpacks, 25 in each school. So from 6 to 50, that's a fairly big jump for a small club. We're about 35 club members. A backpack for a school year runs $575 Canadian, which is, I think, $39.95 US these days. I haven't checked the exchange rates, but it's not a small amount. And so over the summer months, we did some fundraising. We applied for a district grant, and the week before school started, we reached out to the 2 schools and said, we have enough for 48 kids. I know we committed to 50, but we got enough for 48. But let's start the school year with 50, and somehow we'll find the remaining $1,000 between now and the end of the school year to look after those last 2 kids. And the school said, well, that's great, but we've got a problem too. We've gone back and looked at our list, and we did a minimum of 60 backpacks. So to break that down in numbers that I could understand, if there were 5 kids in a classroom that were going hungry, we had enough for 4. Who decides which kid goes hungry? The Abbotsford Rotary Club didn't want to decide. The teachers didn't want to decide. So what we did as a club is we took a hard look at ourselves and said, okay, well, we don't have the ability to write checks to solve this problem. What do we have? And we have the 2 things that every other Rotary Club in the world has, including yours. We have the quality of the members that make up the Rotary Club, the credibility they have in their communities, the reputations they have, the relationships they have. And we have the reputation of Rotary International behind us as well. So we started to tell the story of hungry kids in our community. And it was that telling of the story that put us on the front page of the local newspaper as a standalone story where they waived all the advertising. It was actually a 3-page feature. Well, I know that most of you are associated with other clubs. You've been Rotarians for a number of years. So again, just a quick show of hands. How many got into Rotary? The only reason you got into Rotary was so you could fundraise. Anybody? Yeah, I'm doing a quick scan. I don't see any hands going up. Me neither. Fundraising is a necessary evil to make a difference in the world. But something interesting started to happen. We started having people call us and offer us money. So instead of going out and asking them for money, they started calling us. We'd like to sponsor a backpack. We'd like to sponsor 2 backpacks. We'd like to sponsor 10 backpacks. 10 backpacks, that's almost $6,000. Yeah, who do we make a check payable to? We'd like to sponsor a school. A school's 30 kids. Yeah, who do we make a check payable to? I beg your pardon? And over the course of 2 years, excuse me, and again, these slides are from the first 2 years, we had over 50 community partners, that businesses that bought at least 1 backpack. Rotarians don't pack the backpacks, they don't do shopping. We had 100 community volunteers that have nothing to do with Rotary, no connections, doing the shopping, the cleaning, the delivery, and the pickup every week. And in the first 2 years, we raised over $250,000. That number now is well in excess of $1 million 8 years later. Hands up, if you've ever had a community service project where people call and offer tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, again, I'm going to stop looking at gallery view. This is just a waste of my time because it doesn't happen. And it never happened to us. We rebranded it. First year was called something else. We rebranded it Starfish Packs. You've been around Rotary long enough. You've heard the parable of Starfish. If you haven't, I'll tell you at the end. This will not be common knowledge to our American brothers and sisters, but in Canada, all Rotarians receive 3 times a year, monthly. I read it 3 times a year. A magazine called Rotary Canada, which profiles and highlights various projects that Rotarians in Canada are doing. Our project in the very early days is featured. We created a website, www.starfishpack.com. And then, as if it wasn't strange enough to have businesses and individuals and churches and synagogues and gun clubs and sport clubs and other nonprofits calling, asking if they could give us money, we started having the Rotary clubs call. Is there anyone that call from Aldergrove? I'm looking. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody. Okay, assuming there's not, then I can be honest. I hate Aldergrove. I hate Aldergrove Rotary Club. I'm glad you're recording this. Let them know they've heard this before. And I'll tell you why I hate Aldergrove Rotary Club. So they're a smaller community than ours. They're adjacent to us. They're our next door neighbors. And they had 3 schools. And they needed 50 backpacks. So in the first 2 months of them starting their own Starfish program, they were fully funded. At the start of the 2nd school year, before school started, they were fully funded for the entire year. They were fully funded for the next school year, and they were halfway done raising funds for the 3rd school year. And this is why I hate them, because they make my club look bad, and we're the #1 club in North America alphabetically. So, again, hands up if you've ever been associated with any Rotary project where the funding's there 2.5 years in advance. It just doesn't happen. They had grocery stores fighting. There were 3 grocery stores in that town. They're fighting over, they're going to do a bidding war over who could give the most food to the Rotary Club for their program. Chilliwack was next up. They were doing 50 or 60 kids in their first year. Langley was an adjacent community, if you're familiar with the Lower Mainland. Coquitlam is adjacent to Vancouver. Again, a front page news story for a club that had never, ever gotten any media love or attention from the local newspapers, suddenly now on the front page. This little guy's named Chase. He was 6, and I'll just give you a tease. If there's time at the end, I will show you a little video, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version here. Chase went to his mom approaching his 7th birthday and gave her a list of toys that she wanted, or that he wanted for his birthday. And Mom very wisely said, well, look, you can't pick up and look after the toys you've got. So why don't you pick a box full of toys that you have that you don't want anymore? We'll take them down to the food bank or the community services, and then you'll have room for the new toys. And Chase said, well, he didn't want to give up any of his toys. And so Mom said, well, then maybe you don't need a new toy. So Chase decided to take $50 that he'd gotten from uncles and aunts and grandpas from birthday money. And because Starfish was in his school, he wasn't getting a backpack, but he was familiar with it. He decided he'd donate the $50 to Starfish Pack. And his mom created a little Facebook page challenging his cousins and his uncles and aunts to match the $50 donation. Well, in 24 hours, he'd raised $300. So using 6-year-old math, which is completely understandable to most of us, if you had 50 and your goal was 100 and you made 300, naturally the next goal is $9,000. Don't ask me to explain the math to you. If I have to explain that to you, then we're both in trouble. He didn't hit the $9,000 target. If there's time at the end, I'll tell you how much he hit. But this is a 6-year-old child who didn't get a backpack from us, whose family has no connection to Rotary, who is raising money for a Rotary project. And one of the comments further down the article is that what blew him away was how much people cared about his classmates. Again, this isn't a kid that is going hungry. This is a kid that's got a mom and dad and 2 incomes and loving grandparents and all the support networks that we take for granted. But it changed his life. So at the end of the day, we've raised all kinds of money. We've developed hundreds of relationships with community volunteers. We've gotten all kinds of press, but so what? I mean, are we making a difference? This is a letter, or a part of a letter we got from one of the parents of a student that was getting a Starfish Pack, and it said, being a low-income house, we greatly appreciate the bag you sent home. It might be meant for one student only, but it makes a big difference for the 4 of us. Now understand, I say we're sending home 6 meals, 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners. That's a box of cereal. It's a box of mac and cheese. It's a banana. It's a jar of peanut butter. It's designed to feed a child, and yet this family of 4 was using it to supplement their entire family's groceries for the week. I don't know if you can see this or not. This is a letter from a principal. I'm just going to read a couple of highlights. After we started the program in her school, fighting in the classroom, in the hallways, and the playgrounds dropped almost to 0. The second paragraph at the bottom, she says, all my grade 2 students are currently meeting expectations in mathematics. She's never had that happen before in all the years she taught there. She had taught there for 20 years, and at the end of the year, for the first time in the school's history, all grade 2 students met or exceeded provincial standards, both in math and English. The last paragraph is the one that, even 8 years later, still makes me scratch my head. She says, the next example may seem strange to you, but this school year, I, as the principal, have not had one child swear at me or call me vulgar names. Now, when I read that, I picked up the phone and I said, wait a second, you're an elementary school principal. What kind of vulgar names are your kids calling you? And she said that she would routinely be called an F and C for the sake of politeness and decorum. And I said, by kids in grade 1 and 2? She said, by kids in kindergarten. She said, I routinely get that because they're angry, they're scared, they're hurting, and they take it out on me. And suddenly now, they see me as an ally. They see the teachers as allies instead of authority figures that are to be rebelled and distrusted. An interesting side benefit of Starfish that we never even, it didn't even occur to us, is absenteeism. Because it's a weekend project, we deliver the backpacks on Friday, and the kids take them home with them Friday afternoon after school. And the deal is you have to bring the backpack back on Monday empty so that it can be picked up, cleaned, and restock for the following Friday. Well, it never occurred to me, but it made perfect sense. The highest 2 days of absenteeism in most schools are Fridays and Mondays. And suddenly now these kids that had no motivation to be in school would come with fevers and the holes in their shoes and, you know, everything in the world. Nothing could stop them from getting to school on Friday because they knew that backpack was waiting for them there. And nothing would stop them from being there on Monday morning to return it because they knew if they didn't return it, there was no food the following weekend. So we saw a 40% increase or 40% drop in absenteeism, a 40% increase in attendance because of a banana. This is from a principal of a school, elementary school. He had 3 boys, all in grade 3, who were not reading at a grade 3 level. Essentially, they were all illiterate. I don't know what school systems are in your individual communities. In my community, it's K to 5, and the middle school is 6, 7, 8, and then high school is 9 to 12. So at grade 3, these kids are 2 years out from going to middle school. And if they're not reading by the time they get to middle school, they're done. I mean, the system's just not designed to teach kids elementary school reading skills in middle school. We got these 3 kids on the Starfish Pack, and the principal says these boys had low self-esteem. Their home situation was uncertain at best and chaotic and toxic. One of the parents was routinely telling their kid, "I hate you. I don't know why I brought you into this world. You're the worst thing that's ever happened to me." This is the greet, or this is the song and dance this kid is getting as he walks away from mom into the classroom every Monday. These kids got on the program, and by the end of grade 5. So we got them on in grade 4. By the end of grade 5, so 2 years later, 2 of them were reading at grade 5 levels. The third one's reading at a grade 7 level. Now, did a box of mac and cheese or an apple teach these kids to read? No. But what happened was that these kids who were in these toxic situations were suddenly bringing home food for the family. And suddenly now this parent that was just lashing out at the kid because they're not equipped, saw this kid, saw that total strangers in the community valued their child. Valued them enough to stop by every week with a backpack of food and say, "Hey, you're worth it." And that opened doors for the parents, excuse me, to have conversations with the teachers. The teachers suddenly stopped being authority figures that the parents had always been rebelling against, and they saw them as allies. So Johnny got tutors, and mom got some help with skills of meal preparations and job skills and stuff like that. Resources that were always available in the school system, but that these people, these parents, never ever thought to ask for, because it started a conversation. It wasn't just about the calories in the backpack. It was about the conversations that we were facilitating by taking the time to show we cared. So what started out with 6 kids in Abbotsford quickly grew to, and again, this slide is 5 years old. It started to spread. And it's now spread all up and down British Columbia. This slide is incredibly old. We're now at 27 cities, last I heard. We're in well over 100 schools. And the last number I heard, and I haven't checked in a couple weeks, but the last number I heard was 1,600 kids that we're feeding every single week. So it's spread sort of organically in British Columbia. And then the ultimate compliment is that when America sees something that makes sense and works, they want it. And so we have created a standalone Starfish Pack USA program that was launched 2 years ago in Washington State in the Linden-Bellingham area, which is, for those of you that aren't familiar, is about 2 hours north of Seattle. That area is, well, I'll give you one example. There's a single school in the Bellingham School District that has 495 students. 492 of them qualify for state food subsidies. So there are only 3 kids in the school that aren't, whose families are above the income threshold. And these are not high urban areas. I mean, Bellingham is a bedroom community that many people commute to and from the greater Seattle area. And it's a nice place. If it wasn't for COVID, I would be down spending my 70-cent dollars down there on a regular basis. So these are not impoverished areas. These are suburban areas. this is this is a tough slide for me to share. Libby's 6 years old. She says, I wish my mommy had a better job so we could have more food, but I'm not angry about it, but because I know mom's trying. I always tell people that Libby's my daughter. And then I tell them and remind them that she's yours too. If she lives in my community, she's going hungry. It doesn't matter that she's not a blood relative. It doesn't matter that I may never meet her. If she's going hungry in my town, she's my responsibility. That's not socialism, that's just humanity. And I can make all kinds of economic, heartless, bloodless reasons why hungry children are not good for our community, why a small investment in a child's nutritional and well-being is infinitely more cost-effective than incarcerating them 10 or 15 years later, which is what, or treating them medically. But if you're a parent, the notion of a hungry child going hungry in your neighborhood or your city is something that should affect your heart and your head. I want to share, just in closing, a story, and I've heard thousands of them. I literally have in the 10 years I've been working this program. This story happened the second year of the program. It's still the one that gets me. I have tried to figure out a way to tell it without choking up. I have not succeeded. I used to apologize in advance. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to tell it the way it is. There was a little boy, kindergarten, so he's starting school. And he was in a school that had both a breakfast and a lunch program. So he's one of the lucky kids. He's getting 2 meals a day. But the principal told us there was 3 problems with this little boy, this little 5-year-old boy. The first was that he wasn't eating the food that was provided during breakfast or lunch. He was hoarding it. The second problem was that he was stealing food from the other kids in the breakfast lunch program and hoarding their food. And the third problem was that this 5-year-old boy, on his way to school each day, to and from school, was panhandling in a public park, asking people for money for food because he had a single mom at home and an 18-year-old sister. And in his mind, as the 5-year-old, he was the man of the house, and his job was to bring home the food. Now, I'm closer to 60 than I am to 50, and I'm here to tell you that that guy is more of a man than I have ever been. And I'm also here to tell you there's something seriously wrong with our world when a 5-year-old thinks it's his job to bring home food for his family. What's the #1 Rotary Club in all of North America? It's my club. It's the Abbotsford Rotary Club. Why do I remind you of that? Because sometimes the very best answer to a question is another question. So as a virtual club, both collectively and individually, as you work with clubs in your own parts of the world, let me suggest 3 questions that you might want to ask yourself, this club, the clubs that you're connected with. The first question is, how many kids are going hungry in your community? Because if they're going hungry in mine, I guarantee they're going hungry in yours. My community grows more food than yours does. My community gives more money per capita than yours does. And yet I got hundreds and hundreds of kids that go hungry every single day. If they're going hungry in my town, they're going hungry in yours. Question #1, how many kids are going hungry in your community? Do you know? Do you know where to find out? I think you'd be surprised. Question #2, what's an acceptable number of kids in your community going hungry? In my community, the acceptable number is 0. We are miles away from that. In Abbotsford, we feed about 275 kids in Starfish. There are another 300 kids that are clients through their families in the local food bank. But there's still several hundred kids that we just can't get to. So the acceptable number is 0, and we're not going to stop working until we find a way to achieve that. And the third and final and most important question I want you to ask yourself is, after you've asked yourself how many hungry kids you've got and what an acceptable number is going to be, the third and final question is, what are you going to do about it? For our club and our communities and the ones that have partnered with us, we found this to be a great step, because it's not just about calories, as I said, it's about conversations. And here's the positive news, because this is really a depressing story. If I've got hungry kids in my community, I know there are hungry kids in your community. But I know that Rotary changed lives in my community, in Elder Grove, and Chilliwack, and Coquitlam, and Delta, and Langley, and Campbell River, and Williams Lake, and Linden, and Bellingham. And I know Rotary can change lives in your community too. It already does. That's why you're Rotarians. That's why I'm a Rotarian. We got into this to change lives. The secret is that in doing so, we change our own for the better. I'll take questions, or I'll take my chances with the technology and show you the video about the 6-year-old Chase, whatever you prefer. But I'm all done sharing the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. We had a question from Terry Moore. Terry, you're muted. Do you want me to ask it? Terry had a question about whether there's a stigma with other kids attached to the backpacks. Like, do you have any issues?
Yeah, I get that question every time I ask. We've had some school boards refuse to let us come in because they hated the branding. Chase is a great answer to that, but I'll give you another answer, another story. And again, I literally do have thousands of them. We deliver the backpacks on Friday afternoon. Depending on the community and the group, sometimes they deliver over the lunch hour. And so as a result, the backpacks have nothing that requires refrigeration because schools just don't have the capacity to do that. Oftentimes, they are stored in the back, along the back wall of a classroom or the classrooms that the kids are going to get. And in an elementary school, we had a little 6-year-old going up to the teacher asking, what's the deal with all these backpacks? And the teacher said, well, they're for fellow classmates that don't have anything to eat this weekend. To which the little girl said, it's wonderful that people care about us. Kids are not stupid. Kids know which kids sitting next to them are wearing the same clothes in April that they were wearing on day 1 of the school year, or who have duct tape on their shoes that they started wearing in the first day to walk through the puddles of the snow. Kids know what's going on. We have never in 8 years had it. In every community that we have the program running, we have a strategy in place that's agreed to by both the school boards and the partners to deal with the stigma. In 8 years, we've never once had opportunity to use it. And I have to be honest, because I'm just a petty individual, I really wish once we would get involved, because here's what the program is. If your kid picks on my kid that's getting a backpack or gives them any kind of grief, and it gets reported to a teacher or a playground supervisor, your kid gets it, because normally, I need to back up, in order for my kid to get a backpack, I, as the guardian or parent, have to sign a permission slip saying, I will accept this backpack. But if your kid picks on my kid, we're sending a backpack home with your kid with no permission slip the following Friday. And when you call the school to tell, why do you send his backpack? Well, why is Johnny bringing home an apple and a banana and a box of mac and cheese? We're going to say, well, he was bullying some kid that needed the food, so we assumed that you weren't feeding your kid either. So we've never had an opportunity to do that. I would love to see that. I have told every community, if it ever happens, I will make the first phone call, just so there's no fallout. You can blame the crazy Canuck. It has never happened in 8 years, and unless there are other questions, if I can show the 3-minute Chase video, I think that will address the stigma issue better than I can.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can, when you hit share screen, make sure you click on the bottom there. Shares the volume. Yeah.
This is going to be even jerkier than I was, but let's take a chance. All right, here, just bear with me here for 1 second.
Hey, Bruce, is Debbie Vance's club involved in this?
Who?
Debbie Vance. She's at is it Oklulitz?
The name doesn't mean, I don't recognize the name, but it's not to say she couldn't be involved. I don't recognize the name.
She's a high energy Rotarian in Oklulitz, started a club. And now they have 2 years ago, and now they have over 50 members.
Again, I can't speak directly to whether she is or isn't.
You're muted, Bruce. If you're swearing, that's fine. You can stay on mute.
Well, quite a higher standard here virtually than we have in my club. Just by way of previews, we as Rotarians have nothing to do with this. This story went national in Canada. They picked it up based on the newspaper article that I showed you earlier in the presentation. But this story went national. So again, I apologize for the jerkiness of it, but let's see what we get. No, that's not it. Oh, I lied. That's not it. Hold on. Just hold on. It's completely not the right video. Oh, hold on. On my desktop. It's worth it. It's worth it. Just bear with me here.
Bruce, do you know if this is out in the Bay Area too, like particularly Oakland?
No, to my knowledge, it's Starfish USA right now is in its early stages. They were just starting year 2 when COVID dropped. So there are plans to expand sort of organically as we did in Canada, sort of working south from Washington State through Oregon and California. But there's nothing, because this is all the food is sourced locally, the volunteers are all sourced locally. There doesn't need to be a supply chain. If a group in California wants to do this,
right,
it's off the shelf. Take the program, figure out what works in your community, figure out what doesn't, and then do it better in your community, and then share with the rest of us how you solved a problem that we haven't thought of yet. Okay, cool. I think I'm ready to go. Share computer sound. Okay, here we go.
Birthdays are a pretty big deal, so are all those presents. But one Abbotsford boy decided to forego the gifts this year so he could help hungry kids at his school. In many ways, Chase Miller is a typical kid who just loves to play. But when Chase started thinking about how he wanted to celebrate his 7th birthday, he did something that's not very typical at all.
Chase said maybe we could help someone else.
That someone else would turn out to be kids at his school.
Kids that come to school on Monday mornings that don't have any food.
He decided to donate $50 from his own savings and ask friends and family to donate $1 each. His initial goal was to raise $100 for something called the Starfish Pack Program, which sends hungry children home with a backpack full of food each weekend.
Right now, it's 255 students in Abbotsford in 22 schools.
But the need is much greater. Chase's mom started a Facebook page. They initiated a number of fundraisers, and the donations kept climbing.
Strangers, complete, absolute strangers. They've never interacted with me, our family, Chase, nothing. Just donate tons of money. It was absolutely amazing. I cried almost every single day.
One of these, and one of these.
Chase spent some time helping volunteers with the Starfish program, who gather each week to fill the backpacks with food. When he returned to school, the kids had just one question for him.
All the kids said, "Did you pack my backpack?"
Chase recently signed over a check totaling more than $8,200, a donation that will make a huge difference to many hungry children.
It just raises their level of education, because when they're hungry, they're not learning. So it's big.
Also big, what this fundraising effort taught Chase.
Treat others the way you want to be treated, because that's what he's really learned from all this.
And that's a birthday gift that's unforgettable.
So to answer the question about stigma, all the kids wanted to know was, did you back my backpack? A kid with $50 raised, and a goal of $9,000, didn't hit $9,000, raised $8,206. Again, hands up if you've ever been part of a Rotary Community Service project where 6-year-olds write 4-digit checks. Yeah, me neither. Other questions? I'm sorry I went so long. The technology challenges are more than I'm up to.
All good. Finished right on time, Bruce. I imagine, so a lot of us live in fairly urban areas. I guess Scott and I do, at least. I live in the Northern Virginia area. My daughter's graduating class is 465 people. In a school her size, I know because from coaching rugby, I know that we used to purposefully recruit out of the neighborhoods where MS-13 was huge. And those neighborhoods are very desperate when it comes to the kids are going to school hungry every single day. We used to do the same thing at rugby, is we'd send them home with a ball and a gift card for the grocery store, right, when they'd come on. So in schools that size, it almost, the $500 mark, I wonder if that would almost be insurmountable, right, with it, when you're talking about an elementary school that potentially has 1,000 students, right? That
okay, let's be clear, it's Canadian dollars. So I think that the Starfish USA packs, I think it's around $425 for 10 months of schools. So it works out to about $42, $43 a month to US. Again, don't hold me to that number. We can certainly get it if you have interest. And I encourage any of you that are interested to go to starfishpack.com and click on it. You can get information about Starfish Pack USA or Starfish Canada. But it's $42 a month, so it's $11 a week. We spend that. I mean, I used to have teenagers in the house. That was a pizza for one teenager, which got inhaled 10 minutes into movie night on Friday nights as a family, right? So yeah, it is a large number, but it's not an insurmountable one. It's amazing what the notion in your community herding does for people.
I would charge everybody in the group. You know, one of the things that I would like everybody to do this year is to talk to your local brick and mortar Rotary Club that's in your local area, if you have one. I would charge everybody in the group with, you know, maybe having a conversation with somebody at the local club to find out if there is a particular school that they could work with, or if they're familiar with Starfish Pack, maybe push them to Bruce, right? For us being so geographically dispersed, it's tough for us to all rally around one school. But that doesn't mean that we can't. I feel like we have the ability to get the word out to, how many people? We have 19 people on tonight, to get the word out to 19 local areas about what he's doing. I think it'd be a great thing for everybody to do. If it just means forwarding an email and making somebody aware, that's a step in the right direction for sure. Bruce, I was looking at the FAQ on your website. It says that you do offer to high school students in the Abbotsford area. Is it primarily elementary schools that you're servicing right now?
Every community does it differently. That's the great thing about this project. In Abbotsford, the community I'm most familiar with, yes, we started with the elementary schools because nutritionists told us that the calorie intake was going to have the greatest impact on brain development in the early years. So we started with the elementary schools. And then what it allowed us to do is, as the kids graduated to middle school and high school, the packs followed with them. So the stigma was reduced. In high school, we use the same branding, but rather than the yellow on blue, which are interestingly enough Rotary colors, what a coincidence. We take the yellow star and we put it in blue, so it's blue on blue. You would almost have to be reading as Braille, so there's no stigma involved, because, you know, at 5 you'll eat anything that's put in front of you, but when you're 16 you'd rather starve than admit to your friends that you're not, you know, part of the group. So by starting in elementary schools and working forward, it's allowed the program to go right through. We're in year 8 now. So we have kids that we started in elementary school that are graduating from high school. We've modified it in high schools too. Instead of backpacks, what we do is put what we call snack closets. So instead of going to the lunchroom or the cafeteria, there's a closet that's fully stocked and no one monitors it. You want to take a banana for lunch, go help yourself. On Friday nights, we pack staples that they can take home. And when it's gone, but we put enough in and we ask the kids to sign up discreetly, privately, no one knows, so that we know that if there's 50 kids that are going to hit that closet on Friday night, we get enough for 50 kids. So every community does it differently. Every school does it differently. That's the genius of this program, is we create a framework that allows the innovations and the experiences of each community and each Rotarian to make it uniquely theirs.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Bruce. I appreciate you talking to us tonight. We'll make sure in the follow-up email that we've got the information for Starfish. I put the link in everybody's email today that went out. So thanks again, Bruce. We're losing people. They're dropping like flies. So we're going to do the 4-way test before we just have me and Bruce talking to each other. And I'm going to pick on Ron Mead to lead us in the 4-way test tonight.
Alrighty, the 4-way test and the things we say, do, or think. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all
Is it fair to all
concerned?
concerned?
Will it
Will it
build
good-
goodwill and better friendships?
friendship?
Will it be beneficial to all?
Beneficial to all concerned. And fifth,
Is it fun?
will it be fun?
And sixth, this doesn't have two wheels.
All cars have two wheels, right? So thanks again, Bruce. We have a board meeting right after this that Blair will probably be joining us for. So anybody who is on is welcome to stay on. Otherwise, we will see everybody next week for sure. See you guys all.
Thanks, Bruce.